What's up, family? Welcome back to Fed by Fire, the place where we don't fake it, we motherfucking face it. And tonight we're stepping into four stories, all federal, all recent, and I'm going to do more than just read off weights and charges. I'm going to take you inside these moments where their lives were turned inside out and inside the choices that don't exactly look like destruction when you're making them, but look like destiny when you're standing there in front of a judge in shackles. And as I break these down, I'm going to pull in some of my own truth, the years I spent trying to outrun probation, the overdoses I survived, the chaos I called normal, and the people I watched get swallowed by the same world these cases came from. Because I want the people listening, the ones still using, still hustling, still lying to themselves, just to feel these stories in their bones and in their soul. But all right, let's start with Vero. Case number one, Vero's arsenal, a woman who didn't just carry a weapon, she carried wounds. And picture this. All right, San Antonio, Texas, March 2023. A woman named Veronica Vero Minjares, 40 years old, steps out of her apartment. She's tired, not the tired you fix with sleep, but the tired from living a life you don't exactly know how to stop. She's got a heavy backpack on, not just because it's full of products, but because she's been carrying trauma, poverty, addiction, and her own reputation for decades. This is a woman with 7 prior convictions. Every time she tried to slow down, the life shoved her back into the game. No job, no options, no stability, bad relationships, people depending on her, people using her. So when the undercover buys happened, there was 3 ice deals, 2 H cells. They weren't random. She was in survival mode. She was the provider in a life that doesn't let you retire. On April 4th, she thinks she's meeting up to make, quick cash, a regular deal. She doesn't know the DEA has been watching and surveilling her for weeks. She doesn't know the guy she's meeting isn't just a customer. He's evidence and he's an informant. She gets taken down right then. She's handcuffed. That backpack gets opened like a coffin. 392 grams of ice, 62 grams of H, bud, a scale, a 9mm loaded with 14 rounds. Honestly, this sounds just like what my backpack used to, but the worst wasn't in the backpack. It was at her home. Agents go in and find an arsenal, 4 assault rifles, 3 more 9mm handguns, 6 rifle magazines, and think about what that says. Vera wasn't living. She was preparing for a war she didn't even fully understand. But the walls probably felt like they were closing in on her. When Judge Ezra sentenced her to 260 months, I guarantee the courtroom, it was a quiet place, because that's the moment you see the truth. Nobody wins that game. Even the survivors are just broken. And I say that with love because I could have been Vero. I have been Vero. I know that desperation. I know that paranoia. I knew what it was like to use dope to numb all the pain. You don't have the vocabulary to explain, but I hope Vera makes it out better than she arrived, and I will pray for her and her family. So yeah, shout out Vera. Let's talk about case number 2, the hidden compartment. One night, 2 traffic stops, and a destiny you can't talk your way out of. February 2024, highway in East Texas, middle of the night, dark, quiet, pine trees on both sides of the roads. Santana Powell, 33, is driving. He's tired, he's focused, and he's lying to himself the way we all do when we're in that life. Just get to Houston, make the drop, make the money, no problems. Business as usual. He gets pulled over the first time. Too much cash in the car. Cops find the hidden compartment empty for now. He tells them he's on his way to buy a vehicle. The cops know he's lying, and they always do, but they let him go anyway. And this is the moment right here. This is the crossroad all addicts and traffickers face. You either turn the fuck around or you double down. And Mr. Powell, he doubled down that day. Hours later in Liberty County, he gets pulled again. This time, hidden in compartment is loaded with 20,000 pills, 100 grams of blow, and a firearm. Imagine the silence when they pop that compartment. Imagine that feeling in his stomach just dropping, knowing it's all over. Not after a chase, not after a shootout, not after a snitch, but after a traffic stop and pure stupidity. When he stood in court and heard 300 months or 25 years, that's a lifetime for somebody. This is what I keep saying. It doesn't take a career criminal to get career time. It takes one night, one mistake. Let's talk about case number 3, the trifecta model. When data meets death and hope fights back. All right, now we switch sides. This isn't a bust. This isn't about saving. This is about saving lives. Louisiana's North Shore, St. Tammany, Washington, and Tangier are places you don't hear about on TV unless something goes horribly wrong. For 2 years, the DEA ran something called the trifecta model. The results, a 70% drop in fatty overdose deaths. The trifecta model is a strategy for combating drug trafficking overdose deaths by focusing on 3 key operation pillars. It primarily a localized law enforcement model designed to ensure comprehensive accountability and justice across the entire illicit drug supply chain. The 3 pillars of the DEA's trifecta model are transnational disruption. This involves breaking the command and control structures, as well as illicit finance networks of major transnational criminal organizations, or TCOs, such as Sinaloa and CJNG cartels, unbreakable partnerships. This pillar emphasizes collaboration between federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies to share intelligence and combine assets for rapid response and investigations, effectively tearing down jurisdiction barriers, local accountability. This focuses on elevating the legal consequences for major traffickers at the local level, such as pursuing second-degree homicide or similar severe charges in cases linked to fatty overdoses deaths rather than lesser charges. This model aims to aggressively target and dismantle the entire supply chain, from the source of precursor chemicals to the street-level dealers. In local communities in St. Tammany, 58.5, and in Washington, 45.3, these aren't numbers, these are lives, people who didn't die, and that's a win for everybody. Transnational disruption at the top of Fort Genesis on the streets, DEA plus sheriffs plus cops all sharing intel instantly and charging dealers with homicide for the kills linked to their product. Then you have the families, Jacob's mother, Nicholas's father, standing at the podium telling the world about their sons, that they weren't criminals, they weren't junkies, that they were human beings with futures that vanished in seconds. Miss Massey said Jacob was not a statistic. His future was stolen. I've been around that kind of grief. I've caused it. I've sat in rooms where people have cried over bodies that didn't have, fetty in them, but had enough research chems to stop a horse. But that's why this case hits, because it shows what we could have had in my generation if fentanyl had been treated like an emergency, as it is and was. Case number 4, let's talk about the air freshener signal. 9 kilos of blow and a traffic stop you don't come back from. All right, November 2022 in Liberty County, a deputy pulls over a car, no drama, no chase, just a regular stop. Inside is Anthony Brown, 37. He's cool, calm, but the car smells like bud. Not enough to arrest, but enough to investigate, and that's how it always starts. The deputy, he starts asking questions. Brown and the passenger, their stories aren't matching up, and you know how that goes. Once the cops sense weakness, they push and push. They search the car and they find the air fresheners everywhere. Anyone who's ever moved weight knows what that means. It's an attempt to mask something bigger. Then they find the bricks, 9 keys of blow. That's millions of dollars on the street. That's cartel level product they didn't get. Brown gets 162 months. That's almost 14 years. Over a traffic stop, he probably thought he could beat it by being polite. Here's the truth. Most people don't get caught selling. They get caught driving because your body knows you're dirty even when your mouth doesn't want to admit it. All right. All right, every one of these cases feels familiar to me. Not because I did exactly what they did, because I lived on the same planet they lived on. So, selling to feed my habit, running from withdrawals, trying to keep people happy, hoping, the drugs made the pain quiet, thinking my PO wouldn't notice, thinking tomorrow would be different, thinking near-death experiences were just bad nights. But I remember waking up in hospitals, overdose, Narcan, people saying I was brain dead. My mother rejected me afterwards, God bless her soul. I'm trying to rebuild my life from nothing, to climb out of the same holes I dug for myself. If someone was listening right now that's in that life, in addiction, and in trafficking, and in chaos, I want you to hear this. You're not evil. You're not broken. You're not beyond repair, but you are running out of time. And, you don't notice it until you're in a courtroom or a casket or standing over someone else's. And that's just the way it goes. But all right, family, that's the episode. 4 cases, 4 realities, 1 message. The streets, they don't love you. The drugs, they don't love you. But your future might, if you live long enough to meet it. Now, I think that's all for tonight. I'll be making some more videos on press releases, just like I've been doing. Got a couple reaction videos coming up. And if anybody sees my video and is interested in me coming on your platform or would like me to come on yours, then my TikTok, my X, all of that'll be in the description. Thank you guys so much. Love y'all.